I want to get into the story here about Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson. If you haven't seen this interview, we're going to watch a little bit of it tonight because there's some things that Elon said here in reference to the government and in reference to Twitter that I think we really need to talk about. Now, a while back, I told you that nothing that you do on social media is actually private. And I found this out a couple of years ago when I was working for employers and they were able to get around Facebook privacy settings to view applicant Facebook pages. Let me see what this person is talking about on social media to see if I really want to hire this person. But there were still people out there that did believe that if they had their Facebook page set to private, or if they had their Twitter DMs set to a certain settings that only people that they follow could see what they do and could DM them, people still believed that. And it has now come to the point where you have someone like Elon Musk who has now confirmed what I've been saying for quite some time, that even your Twitter DMs are not private. Even the government was able to look at those. There is no privacy in this country. Stop telling yourself that it is. These agencies have been watching us for a long time. Edward Snowden revealed this many years ago. So there's no privacy. Please tell this to, if you have teenage kids that are on social media, please let them know what they are doing on social media is not private, whether they have it set to private or not. Let's go ahead and get started with this interview here. Now, there's a couple of things that Elon is going to discuss in reference to Twitter, and then we're going to get into the privacy issue. So let's go.
If you look at the at NY Times Twitter feed, it's unreadable. It's like because what they do is they tweet every single article, even the ones that are boring, even ones that don't make it into the paper. So it's just nonstop, zillion tweets a day with no. They really should just be saying, like, what are the top tweets? Yeah. Like, what are the big stories of the day? I don't know. Put out like 10 or something. So some number that's manageable. As opposed to right now, if you were to follow NY Times on Twitter, you're going to get barraged with like hundreds of tweets a day.
Yeah. He's right about that. I mean, there's other things I think we could say about the New York Times. Not just Twitter, but their journalism, all of it. Their journalism is suspect as well, not just the tweets that they put out on Twitter, but he is right. Like some of the tweets that they put out actually aren't like news. It's not like a big story. They're just tweeting for the sake of tweeting.
And your whole feed will be filled with NY Times. So this is something I would recommend actually for all publications, which is for your primary feed, only put out your best stuff. I think I know a thing or two about how to use Twitter because I was the most interacted with account on the whole system before the acquisition, before the acquisition closed. I didn't have the most number of followers, but I had the most number of interactions, and so I clearly know something about how to use Twitter. People's attention is limited, so just make sure you put the stuff that's most important there.
So because you and people like you do interact on Twitter, it's obviously enormously powerful in shaping public opinion. It's where a lot of ideas and trends are incubated.
Yeah.
That's why you
Absolutely.
bought it. It's also a magnet for intel agencies from around the world. And
yes.
One of the things we learned after you started opening the books is that they were exerting influence from within Twitter.
I mean, it was...
Did you guys notice what Tucker Carlson just did there? He said, after you opened the books. So he just basically... This is Elon here responded to that. He basically did just confirm that, yeah, this was Elon opening up these books. But I think I do want to add something here that I didn't say in the beginning, and that's the fact that I was criticizing Elon Musk for not doing interviews in reference to the Twitter files. And I felt like he left journalists like Matt Taibbi out to dry. They were being criticized and they were taking a lot of punches and a lot of blows, right? Just to be honest. And I felt like he was pretty quiet when he really needed to speak up and back these journalists that he asked to do this assignment for him. So I have noticed, this is now the second interview that I'm seeing. The other one was with the BBC. So I will say I am glad that he is doing interviews about these Twitter files now. That being said, I think he should try to repair the damage that was done in reference to people like Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss. Even though we have our criticisms of Barry Weiss, I think he needs to try to repair some of that damage, because I think that was really messed up, in my opinion.
Absurd.
Did you know that going in?
No. Since I've been a heavy Twitter user since 2009, it's sort of like I'm in the matrix. I mean, I can see like things. Do things feel right? Do they not feel right? What tweets am I being shown as recommended? I get a feel like what accounts are making comments. Where are the comments eerily similar?
Yeah.
And then you look at the account, and it's just obviously a fake photo, and it's just obviously a bot cluster
Yes.
over and over again. So I started to get like just more and more uneasy about the Twitter situation. I was starting to feel like something's wrong in the state of Denmark here. There's something feels wrong about the platform. It seemed to be just drifting in a. I couldn't place it exactly. Just it felt like it was drifting in a bad direction. So then.
The problem with Twitter, I think, is that it grew too fast, to be honest. I think it became too big. And I think it became to the point where Jack, the previous owner of Twitter, where he couldn't keep up with this.
I was like, and my conversations with the board and management seemed to confirm my intuition about that. But basically, I was convinced these guys do not care about fixing Twitter, and I had a bad feeling about where I was headed based on the conversations I had with them. So then I was like, you know what, I'll try acquiring it and see if acquiring it is possible. Now I didn't have enough cash to acquire it, so I would need support from others, from some of the existing investors. I would also need like a lot of debt, and so it wasn't clear to me whether an acquisition would succeed. But I thought I would try, and ultimately it did succeed. Anyway, here we are.
But when you got there, and all of a sudden you own it, and all the data on the servers belongs to you. And
well, it belongs to the people, in my view, but yes.
But
the data belongs to the people. See, this is, again, another reason why, and I was on Fault Lines this morning and we were talking about this, why these companies like Twitter should actually be a public utility. These platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all these social media platforms do not exist without our data. So if they don't have our data, they don't have a business. But we are not, paid for our data. We don't receive anything for it. In fact, Elon's trying to make people pay for Twitter. So it's like, just more profit for them. So it does not exist without our data. And imagine if it were like a public utility, right? That would be more beneficial to the populace, I think. But here's Elon Musk admitting, he's like, well, no, I don't own the data. You own the data. We own it, guys. It's our information that drives these platforms. Without it, you don't have a Twitter. You don't have a Facebook.
you can see what it is, and you can
Yes.
see what they've been doing, and you can see who's been working there. You were shocked to find out that various intel agencies were affecting its operations?
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that.
Would that include people's DMs?
Yes. Yes, because the DMs are not encrypted. So one of the things that we're about to release is the ability to encrypt your DMs.
That's pretty heavy duty, though, because a lot of well-known people.
Let's go back, because this is the piece that a lot of people saw on Twitter and they freaked out.
Ultimately, it did succeed. Anyway, here we are.
But when you got there and all of a sudden you own it and all the data on the servers belongs to you. And
Well, it belongs to the people, in my view, but yes.
But you can see what it is, and you can
Yes.
see what they've been doing, and you can see who's been working there. You were shocked to find out that various intel agencies were affecting its operations?
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind.
Full access to everything.
I was not aware of that.
Would that include people's DMs?
Yes.
That piece right there. So a lot of people, they saw this clip on Twitter and they're like, oh my God. It's like that meme where, Jonah Hill. It's that meme of Jonah Hill when he's going like, oh my God. It's like that. Like people were like freaking out. And I was like, we've been saying this for quite some time. I said, guys, your DMs are not private. Nothing on these social media platforms is private. The government can still see it. So you have to be careful what you're sending to people, even in your DMs. This is what I've said before when it comes to organizing too. Like after the pandemic, a lot of us started organizing online instead of organizing in person. Problem with that though, is you end up with way more infiltrators because it's the reality of it. People aren't always who they say they are. And guess who else was able to see what was going on in those group DMs that you have? The US government. So they already knew what you were planning to do before you planned to do it. That includes things like Black Lives Matter marches. That includes things like the George Floyd march. That includes things like all these different protests. If you have been organizing these things online through a place like Twitter, via DM, guess what? Intel already had eyes on it. Now I'm saying this, and some of you are probably watching this and you're starting to wonder, damn, what was the last DM I sent? Some of you are probably starting to pick your brain a little bit here and wonder, ooh, might want to go through my DMs and see what's going on. And let me tell you something else about Twitter DMs. It's never deleted. Even when you delete it, it is never deleted. If you go to Twitter, you go onto your Twitter site, there's actually an option where you can request a Twitter report. And that report will give you everything. Even those DMs that you deleted, they are never truly deleted from Twitter. Once you send it, they have it.
Yes, because the DMs are not encrypted. So one of the things that we're about to release is the ability to encrypt your DMs.
That's pretty heavy duty, though, because a lot of well-known people, reporters talking to their sources, government officials, the richest people in the world, they're DMing each other.
Yep.
And the assumption, obviously, it was incorrect, but was that that's private, but that was being read by various governments.
That's right. Ding, 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 ding. And I've also said this about text messages too. You still don't know. Okay. This is not like the 1950s and 60s when they were, and 70s and 80s and 90s, when they were tapping people's phones. So a lot of us don't use a landline like anymore. So they may not be able to tap that, but that was a landline. If government agencies were able to tap landlines, you think they're not able to tap into a freaking computer? That's what a smartphone is. It's a little mini computer. They've always been around. So your text messages too.
Yeah, that seems to be, yes.
It's scary.
Yes, it is. Like I said, we're moving to have the DMs be optionally encrypted. I mean, there's like a lot of DM conversations which are, just chatting with friends. It's not important.
Of course.
That's hopefully coming out later this month, but no later than next month, is the ability to toggle encryption on or off. So if you are in a conversation you think is sensitive, you can just toggle encryption on, and then no one at Twitter can see what you're talking about.
He just mentioned, did you guys notice what he said? He said, a lot of the DMs were people just friendly chatting with each other. That means he saw the DMs too. For those of you in the chat, if you are knowledgeable about encryption and all of that jazz, chime in, let me know.
I could put a gun to my head and I couldn't tell. I couldn't. That's sort of the gun to the head test. If someone puts a gun to my head, and can I still not see your DMs? That's the acid test.
Yes.
And that's how it should be if you want your.
Have you had complaints from various governments about doing this?
I haven't had direct complaints to me. I've had sort of like some indirect complaints. I think people are a little concerned about complaining to me directly in case I tweet about it. They're like, uh-oh. So they're sort of trying to be more roundabout than that. I mean, if I got something that was unconstitutional from the U.S. government, I would say my reply would be to send them a copy of the First Amendment, and just say like, what part of this are we getting wrong?
You have a lot of government contracts.
What part of this are we getting wrong? Please tell me.
I mean, it's a pretty. No, I'm just saying. But you're kind of exposed in your other businesses. So this is just in case our viewers aren't following this. This is not. You're not just like a journalist taking a stand on behalf of the First Amendment. You're a guy with big government contracts, giving the finger to the government. Do you think Twitter will be as central to this presidential campaign as it was in the last several?
Before he answers that question, I want to say something in reference to his government contracts. Yes, he is also invested in the military industrial complex as well. Elon Musk is. So yes, he does have government contracts. Yes, he is kind of, in a way, giving the finger like to the government, but at the same time, he's also a billionaire. Do you really think they're going to touch him? They'll come after Edward Snowden. And thank you so much for this, Derek. Snowden told us years ago to use Signal end-to-end encryption. Signal is an app that you can use as well to communicate with people. It kind of reminds me of Telegram a little bit, but some people use that instead of actually just texting people. They'll use that to communicate instead.
I think it will play a significant role in elections, not just domestically, but internationally. The goal of New Twitter is to be as fair and even-handed as possible. So not favoring any political ideology, but just being fair at all.
Why doesn't Facebook?
Make sure you guys remember that. He said the goal of the new Twitter is not to favor any political ideology. Let's hold him to that.
Facebook do this. I know that Zuckerberg has said, and I take him at face value, that he, I do actually
Really?
in this way, that he is a kind of old-fashioned liberal who doesn't like to censor. He has, but he, like, why wouldn't a company like that take the stand that you have taken, which is pretty rooted in American traditional political custom, for free speech?
My understanding is that Zuckerberg spent $400 million in the last election, nominally in a get-out-the-vote campaign, but really fundamentally in support of Democrats. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate. Yes.
Does that sound unbiased to you?
No.
They also have lobbyists. Meta also has lobbyists in DC too. We pulled that up a couple of nights ago in reference to open secrets. You can look this up for yourself. Facebook does have lobbyists that are in DC as well. So yeah, he is very much invested in the Democratic Party, Mark Zuckerberg.
Doesn't.
Yes.
So you don't see hope that Facebook will approach this as a non-aligned arbiter? You've allowed Donald Trump back on Twitter. He hasn't taken you up on your offer because he's got his own thing.
Right.
Do you think he will go back on Twitter?
Well, that's obviously up to him. My job is to, I take the freedom of speech just very seriously. So.
No, he doesn't. I'm sorry, I have to debunk this. Smash that like button, guys, if you haven't had a chance to do so. So Elon Musk just said that he takes freedom of speech very seriously. No, he doesn't, because he still censors people. I've seen this with accounts, people that I know. If they say something that Elon doesn't like, he'll like get rid of them. Then he might bring them back a couple of days later. It's just like, he favors freedom of speech that he doesn't find to be, it doesn't piss him off, right? You can't like talk too much crap about him or he'll silence your account too. We've seen this happen. So it's like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Desert Manta says his speech. There you go. He favors what works out for him, but he's not 100% like a free speech absolutist, so to speak.
I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I actually voted for Biden. Not saying I'm a huge fan of Biden, because I would think that would probably be inaccurate. But we have difficult choices to make in these presidential elections. It's not. I would prefer, frankly, that we put someone, just a normal person, as president. A normal.
I wouldn't have even told him that. You don't need to tell anybody. Like, why do you need to explain like who you voted for? That's another thing too. It's like, he wants a normal person to be president. I can tell you, I know from experience, based on what I've heard from Elon Musk, he doesn't want someone that's, left leaning. He doesn't want a progressive. He thinks that's too extreme. He's talked about this before, but at the same time, he doesn't want someone that he would consider to be on the far right. So he doesn't want like a Trump figure, but he doesn't want like a Bernie Sanders figure either. So he's more in that middle of the road, camp. And this is why when people have pressed him in reference to Julian Assange, because Comrade Misty, you guys know her. She's probably one of the biggest Assange activists that I know. She has pressed him. Do you support the release of Julian Assange? And he won't respond to that. He'll respond to other things, but not that one. So he says he's 100% for free speech, but he will not answer how he feels about Julian Assange. And that is probably one of the most important free speech issues that we have right now. Because if Julian Assange goes down, that's kind of the end of it in reference to free speech in this country.
Person with common sense and whose values are smack in the middle of the country, center of the normal distribution. And I think that would be great. I think we have made maybe being president not that much fun, to be totally frank.
He wants someone in the center. That's what he wants. But what he just told you there in reference to the government actually having access to DMs on Twitter, that goes even crazier. This is even crazier than what was revealed in the Twitter files, because of the fact that here is a communication that you are having with someone that you feel is that one-on-one communication or group communication on Twitter DM that you really didn't want anyone else to see except for the person that you're communicating directly with. And the government was able to look at that as well. None of this is safe. None of it. So hopefully this is a lesson to people, because I've been talking about this for quite some time. None of these social media platforms are safe. None of them. And none of them are private, whether you have a private setting set up or not. Just something you got to remember here. Thank you so much for the super chat. Dwayne, land of the free and home of the brave. We are not. We are not. We are the home of enslaved, ignorant cowards clinging to guns. Chango says, yes, Signal got compromised, so they came after Signal too. So I don't know. So see, there you go. All of them. Signal, Telegram. I keep telling you, they're looking at Telegram too. If it has internet access, it's not private. Just tell yourself that.